The thumbnail, by the way, just out of interest, is made with Diffusion B, too technical. I've been using the other one for a while. Thought I'd download this. Looks cool. Works on Apple Silicon and Intel, and there's a waitlist for the Windows version. I guess it's because of the NPU, what they call the neural engine. I just wish it was an FPGA, Field Programmable Gate Array. I've been fantasizing about Field Programmable Gate Array since the late 80s. It's such a cool chip. I imagined that it would have a future where just basically everything would be that. Apple used the in the Afterburner cards, and I was a bit hopeful almost. I was like, oh, here we go. And it wasn't. Nah. And what I hoped was that applications could write to it, control the hardware, and then just set themselves up just as, for example, image processing pipeline or a codec thing. Like you don't need like a media engine. You just need an FPGA that then, but I guess that obviously there's some advantages in size, what you can pack in a space that's not like doing a fucking Kinko machine, whatever that stuff was called. Yes. So I watched the thing today, watched it twice, and I thought, I like how Apple does humor. Like they know that they're like this monster thing, and so if they did like serious humor, it would just come off fucked. Mother Earth was pushing it, to say the least, but it was right. That was just possibly past the edge, actually, of acceptable humor from that scale. Today, I think they did it funny. They didn't overdo it. They just like hinted at it. Tim was like, good evening, but not like good evening or anything like exaggerated. Just like you knew that he was doing good evening. There was an interesting glitch in the editing I didn't like there, actually. He comes out on the stairs. They did cross the line in a way, like he's walking away and then, but that bit worked. But they had this fog, yeah, and I wasn't sure whether it was digital fog or not. And he walks through that and then it starts to fade away, and then it cuts, like it just blinks out. And with that, he's jumped. There's a bit of a jump cut there, and it's actually sloppy for an Apple presentation, especially with the CEO, especially so early in the piece. Anyway, I think that's the first time I've noticed something like that, maybe because I watched it twice. Yeah, and then Johnny, so many Johns. Wonder what they think, if they laugh about that. It's like you've got to be named John or a derivative of John to get work in like senior positions. No Craig, no Federici. Very focused. I think Craig's up to something. His absence was noted by me at least, and surely others. I think that, yeah, I like to cruise into the lab. Like it'd be good to like single frame the lab and just look at all the equipment. Like I'd love to see somebody out there done that. Like that'd be a bit fun. Yeah. So it says something quite significant to me, like actually that they released the Pro and M3 Max all at once. So they've got their process down a lot more. They're much more confident in yield and being able to have the die sizes, and maybe they've got more pipeline as well. Like they've invested now that they've got that worked out. Now they've like, this is what we need, pipeline that shit. Yeah, I think they're much more confident, and that's interesting to be confident with like that confident with a 3 nanometer process. Like we've moved to the 3 nanometer, and to be so bold as in 1 year release 4 chips, because they've got the A17 Pro on the 3 nanometer, which is, it's the M and A is just, it's not really a thing anymore. It's just a sizing. It's a AA battery, AA, AAA. And so it's more like that. Like they're just still the same thing. That was really obvious. And that was one thing. They also, they didn't do the Ultra or what will be after. And so we can see that there's actually going to be the next shift for the M3, like larger scale, the Ultra, and whatever the other thing will be called, the Extreme, which whatever was meant to go into the Mac Pro, but they couldn't pull it off. So we had to wait a generation, basically. That whatever that's going to be. But otherwise, yeah. So the Ultra and that, and I guess, yeah, they're going to have a different architecture. There's something that the thing there is about the interface between the cores, and how you then make that scalable. And the technology they tried previously just didn't really work out properly. People were totally talking about the Max and Max Tech and stuff. Like there were serious issues for the Ultra, and that it just didn't perform. They weren't getting the throughput. So there's some kind of bottleneck going on there that will be solved. And this is the thing, you got to realize that Apple beta tests live. We are the development pipeline. I love it. People often, you get this, oh, they're so secretive. I find Apple the most public company, technologically speaking, out of any of them. There's no surprises. It's very, yeah. Once you realize you're in the beta program and we're just getting all half-baked hardware all the time. I mean that in a really endearing, good way, and in a way which I agree with, because it's excellent. It means your development cost is literally built into the cost of the unit, and not as like it's paid for. Each model is the cost as you learn the things. I was okay. So I thought when the M1 came out, this is hardly a very original or special thought of anyone's, but that the M3 would be the one. Like the M, if you needed it, get it, which I definitely did. I had a 2015 MacBook Pro, the last great MacBook Pro before the next great great MacBook Pro, and I endured the wait and didn't lose any functionality. I still have an SD card, and I still have an HDMI port. Yay! Yeah. Anyway, I did suffer, and I learned a lot, little tricks, but changed software, ditched Adobe as a result of sticking on the 2015. I went with Serif Labs, which I find most suitable. Illustrator still has great edge detection and being able to build vector graphics. And the other thing, anyway, I'm getting off track. But and I knew like when the M1 came out, I was like hardware ray tracing, and I was like they're either going to be able to pull it off on 2 or 3 because they know that they need to do that. That's not a question. It's not optional. It must come. And there's a lot of evidence pointing anyway in Xcode and the APIs and stuff towards what's happening there on the abstraction layers. And so yeah, here comes the A17 gave that away, but this is the real beast. And the mesh shading, good times, but it was the memory allocation, whatever they called it. But let's see, actually, I've literally got the Apple site open. Yeah, so let's learn more about that and go to the architecture of the GPS, the chips. I don't need to watch the event. I don't need to do that. Game changing. Go deeper into the chips. Yeah, where's the architectural commentary? No, bloody dogs. I would have thought they would have mentioned it all actually in here, but apparently not. Dynamic caching. Yeah. And so instead of like pre-loading like the graph textures and stuff, and then you have to have it at the biggest one, and so you've got to allocate all the memory, which in a unified memory architecture would not be ideal. It's like the opposite of what you want in a unified memory architecture. And so the dynamic caching is really is like the natural development of once you go UMA, you have to start thinking in that way. And so here we go. And there'll be other things around that as well. And the UMA across bus, the issue of the Ultra and joining chips together is it's interesting. And that fabric, the interconnect, yeah, you need a hardware version of Grand Central Station. The technology, not the place. And yeah, I was very excited about that anyway, the dynamic caching and just what that kind of means and being able to, and just dynamically allocating memory that quickly. And it really reminded me a lot of, which is why I have an 11 Pro, which I'm just picking up and you can't see, is because the 11 Pro, what they had was the whole of the chip, this was the A series there, was divided into 10,000 blocks, and each individual block could be switched on and off dynamically just to fully optimize for power consumption. And this kind of like dynamic caching kind of idea is that the on-chip memory is being treated that way. And so you're actually like being able to live allocate, and it'll get smart at that using like the things that we've already learned in threading and parallelization of code and stuff like that, that you look at how that would work and then being able to do that on the fly fast enough and ahead of time, of course, so that it knows what's coming up. I found it interesting like that it dramatically increased the average GPU utilization. And is it because I found that odd? Is it because the memory is less of a bottleneck? I just don't see how it matters whether you, from a memory to GPU perspective, maybe it doesn't have to load in not dead data like from the Amiga maybe. Like instead of using page swapping, you're using you can just chop in and out blocks really fast. Does the GPU load whole pages of content, data? I would be surprised if I thought it would be much smaller chunks that are being processed than that, surely. And it's just the textures. Yeah, I was unable to, just on the top of my head, driving a huge performance boost. Let's see what we've got here. Let's just scroll a bit. So this is this thing, dynamic caching, which is awful colors. Inhalants. I need to say that before I do it, not afterwards. And the biggest, I get why dynamic caching is good. I get how it like in a unified memory architecture, it's really amazing, and how the CPU and GPU can share so much better and have exactly what they need and have the most amount spare, basically, that you can use. So it makes use of a small memory pool just by magical switchings around. The only thing I can think of there was that somehow like loading in whole pages of data, like if you had like an assigned amount of space, say an entire screen worth of like a frame buffer basically, and then you had to load the entire frame buffer before the GPU could do the next task. It could do its like, and so if you could have a smaller frame buffer, like so if you one that's exactly designed for the task, like a little one or a bigger one, or then the speed from SSD to on-chip memory is like less, and you don't have to fill the just anyway. Not just. I think it's something to do like that. It must be something like which is paging, blitting versus paging, and as a result, being able to just move chunks of data really quick and just switch them into CPU and GPU performance as required. It'd be interesting if like it wasn't a contiguous amount of space either. Like it could actually just be like dynamically allocated. So you can have one texture here, and then I wonder if it does that. Hardware ray tracing. Look, I got into computer graphics when I made my own 2D sprite creation software, like for making like painting software, pixel painters, to make 8-bit graphics style characters. And yeah, when ray tracing came out, like the first software that was available for ray tracing on in the public, like it wasn't sort of at NASA or something. I had that software, Sculpt 3D, superb back in the day. Drinking and with I guess I have been waiting since 1980, 96, dude. 40 years. I've waited 40 years for hardware ray tracing. And I know it's been on the RTX, and that's what RTX stands for. But I don't have NVIDIA, sorry. And I don't like the approach. NVIDIA was messed up when they bought in Voodoo, whatever the Voodoo graphics chip cards, right? Inhalations. There were different competing technologies at the time. Basically, there were three. There was like an OpenGL based system, which I unfortunately invested into, and which is good, but then, oh man, and the 3DFX chips, right? So yeah, the OpenGL chips, whatever that one was called from that cool card, Intel PCs, was really great. The 3DFX though, and the Voodoo technologies, they just were so hot, just so powerful, because like it was a bad architecture, man. And it was great. It was brute force, basically. It just did it. It just smashed it. And the OpenGL cards just had no hope, because on a gaming level, you were just looking at, as opposed to let's have a technical drawing. This was like, let's have like Quake 2, just walloping, yeah, and that was the end of that. And unfortunately, though, yeah, that tech, it was just too hot, and then when that was integrated, it would just meant the future of Nvidia just was big ass, big thumping graphics cards, and it's just that's not the way you can go. You can't have a small nuclear reactor in to power up your graphics card in another 10 years, because it's that much faster by needing a megawatt. Ridiculous. It's not going to go into a headset. That whole thing has to go away. So Nvidia has actually, like, while they look like they're leading, I know they have some mobile stuff, but really that's why they wanted ARM, to get that like efficient. They just don't have the efficiency thinking, and I'm probably grateful that ARM didn't end up in there, because it might have been poisoned by the 3DFX artifacting. It's endured for so long now. And so this stuff here, which is like really low wattage, this is what's cool. This is what's cool, because you scale that shit up and it's mad fast, and it's already mad fast actually. And it's what we need. It's the pathway you need to go to, and what Apple was showing there, like where they've gone, oh, we're using half the power to generate the same amount of performance. I needed to watch that graph a few times to understand what madness they were trying to suggest, but it was impressive. This itchy. So yes, so this is much excitement to me, the hardware accelerated ray tracing things at this wattage. I'm not saying it's the first. I'm saying it's the most fucking efficient, man. Yeah. If we want to put reality on our faces and not cook our heads and have that like in pairs of glasses, and somehow even just rendering straight to an optical nerve via wireless connection or something, or straight into the occipital lobe, I don't know. You need to have low power. You can't have 1,000 watts of plugged into the wall, strapped to the top of your face, head, just to try and that's not even a decent enough quality. What's it going to have to be? Insane speeds. All your NVIDIA lovers can continue loving NVIDIA, and what they do is the edge. It's the edge of where we're up to in those ways, in particular ways, and it's brute force grunt. But the future will be ultra low power. What per performance? The power performance curve. Yeah. Wasn't it weird that they said Myst? They showed Myst. Who cares about Myst? It plays Mario World 3 really well. It's okay. Yeah. So does the Apple Watch. Who cares? It's oh fucking hell. Does Apple have an investment in the company that did Myst or something? What was that, Borderland, or that it keeps trotting out that game? That it's even available. Are people still buying it? What does that even mean? Why would you buy it? And I don't even mean pirate it. It's fucking boring. It's such a boring game. It was boring when it came out. I never finished it when it came out. I think, no, it's too fucking boring. You walk around bumping into shit. Just, oh, here's another. It's not fun. I don't know. I don't need to be like overly stimulated necessarily on Final Fantasy. Maybe I do. But it's a click and like, it's Leisure Suit Larry, but Leisure Suit Larry was funny. I liked Leisure Suit Larry. Monkey Island, whatever the thing is, that's a good game. But Myst, Monument Valley, there's a key one. You just click through it around a screen, just click on things, see if they work. Oh, I fucking love it. It's slow ads, but it's wonderful. but Myst. Anyhow, the other thing I just want to comment actually on the videos used was like the whole thing talking about maybe they got that's motions cinema. Sometimes the video they showed for like live rendering in 3D, like with this dude running through, and I don't know, like it wasn't. If they should have, what they should have done was use a standard demo, like image, like a render time demo from like one of the classic images from Blender or whatever, and then you just show how that is. Yeah, they don't. Blah 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 blah. Where's the thing? That's no use. It is backwards comparing. Yeah. So I think that's most of it for the graphic side of things. Next thing is that if you look at the image, now they're probably not going to show the image. Can I play the video in and maybe just move to this? Yeah. We won't watch the video. We'll just
The new MacBook Pro. For the first time.
no, the actual. Oh yeah.
Component of these new chips
How's that?
to deliver increased performance.
I want you to notice something here. This is interesting. So with the M1 and the M2, because the M2 is just like it was really obvious that the M die and the Pro die and the Max die were like extensions in a way of each other. Yeah. Like they were just, and the Max was really two Pros sandwiched together, like in itself, like it was sliced off almost. Where you look at this and they're actually different designs. So the M1 and the M2, like look where everything is. Look at the layout. Like here's the GPUs. This is the GPU core. And we're here it's like half. Like it's not like it's like none of the technology. Like here's a bit of it, and here's a bit of it. I wish it wouldn't do that. Here's more of it. It's not like it's three radical different designs. You know what I'm saying? Like it is the architecture is shared across the chips, but the layout is completely different. I think with interesting reasons, like this stuff here. Look at these two big. Look at this. What's this? Super interesting shit. This is part of the interconnect. It's like and so we're just going to be using the Max as the interconnect version. Does the way that these two things work together? Is there some kind of thing in these bits here, like at the end, that then allow, or like some sub that we can't see here, but it's underneath in like slightly 3D chip design, 2.5D, and then they join on. I'd like to see them go 3D chips, but heat distribution in such a small chassis is probably very difficult, and it's probably not Apple's bag. But yeah, so that was one thing I thought. The architecture, look at that, like the way that it's laid out, chip layout, very different purposes. So we're seeing something here, which is like another maturation of their skill set. So with the M1, like they couldn't do that. Like they had to, and they were just getting everything, all the ducks in a row, basically. And the M2 was just like was bringing some of the features down, and as you do, nothing untoward. But that was also about getting the ultra out, and so the M1 only really got these three to do. So the M2 was really around that hardware interconnect, and they didn't get it right. It was a bit of a test, and it didn't really work. And so the M3 is where they've learned from all those things, and now they've got like different layouts for each chip, which is really cool, I thought. Now the next thing about them too is the leap in the M3 Max was massive. Like it was, yeah. And look here, look at this. This is not the same thing. This is not two of these chucked together or something like that. Doesn't add up, man. This is like seriously fucking. Look at that, 92 billion. Look at this. What's going down here? Let's see what we've actually seen now is a stratification of the technology. So we've got the same underlying architecture going on, and they're all benefiting from it. But now that the maturation here is these three layouts, and then like these three purposes, and this fucking beast. Look at this 90, and you know where it all goes. Look at the freaking 40 core GPU, man. Whoa. Let me just unlock that and move that up. That's some, and this was it. Look at this, the memory size. It's not 16 and 32. It's like there's tweaky sizes, which is interesting. Also, depending on which version of this you get, you can't get all of the memory options, like only some or others. Like it's alternating. Yeah. So if you get the binned version of the Max, you can only get like 96 gig or whatever it is, which is interesting. And so the up to 2.5 times faster and everything, it's the fucking Max, man, that thing. Like that, it's not just so that instead of them all going, normally you'd expect them to do this, and the 3 and the Pro they went, but the Max just went boost, man, and that was not lost on me at all. I was just like, no, that's super interesting. I don't think that we're going to see a stratification either of the Pro much more. Like it's not going to separate out the M3, and so the M3 Pro, and it was interesting just listening to them talk about like the use cases. They really put a lot of effort into the use cases. Did you notice that? That was interesting to me. And so the M3 is, yeah, give that to your kids, and it's for doing the work, getting the work done, needing the ports to get the work done, because otherwise you just get that in the air, be happy days. The M3 Pro, so that's your workhorse. It's the workhorse, and you saw that. And then the M3 Max was just being really clear. Okay, multiple streams, yeah, film editors, blah blah blah. They were really trying to say, hey, don't buy this thing. Just need the Pro. It's all good, and you don't even need the Pro. You just need the M3, and you just need that on the 15-inch Air or whatever it is. And oh, she's not going to give it to you yet. Nah. Yeah, extract some value out of that still. Bleed them out. I'm just waiting for Andrew Ty, who does the Apple Gaming, for him to come out and just look at. He'll go get a Max for sure and just try the latest. Just have a drink. And Mac, I would love one. I would love one. I have no need for it, right? I have no need. But yeah, holy crap, that's leading towards what's going to be coming with Ultra and that when they get announced next year. The AV code decode, that's a bit of a had to give that in a yeah, the AV one decode, but no encode. Sorry, yeah, you'll have to use other things for that. This is where if they open up the neural engine more, you could just have the neural engine doing it. Surely, surely you can. I don't know why people aren't using it more. It sees only small amounts of use in image processing and things. Is it like locked down by APIs and you can only send certain kinds of instructions to it? You can't like just run your own model on it. I don't know. No, surely you can run your own model on it. What's the fucking use of it otherwise? That's pointless. It's like if you've listened to Dakota, like the recent conversation with AMD, it was interesting. And yeah, she was really clear. Oh yeah, training's. Oh, it's all you're using the training. She's like, nah, training's not the place. It's going to be inference. It's going to be like the endpoints where we're the using of the model, like the hardware to run the models on. That's the place. That's where you need to be. Yeah, that's where the big bucks is going to be. Billions of instances. So yes, that's what I think. I think that really under. Oh, there it is. Yeah, the black. Look, the Blackbook returns, and now you've got to pay because it's only the beasts that do it. But that's what we like. Why did it take so long? And I reckon we go from the plain aluminium. Like once again, remember where we are the beta pipeline. Not like we recoup the costs from selling the unit. Like we're actually sending out our dev unit. So the normal basic aluminium, the plain aluminium brushed, whatever it is, that was what you got for a long time. Then we got like a space gray. So we've got the space gray Max. And none of that is in that like, little more whatever color and stuff. But they're clearly paint, yeah. So the space gray, they couldn't go black. I'm sure they wanted to do black and just have the black, not that, but they couldn't do it. And so they worked at going from plain aluminium to space gray. And now being able to they've worked from what they learned from that. We're able to finally get to black. The return has been long. Did they forget it? No, they did not forget it. That's interesting. Yeah, they didn't forget it. They've just been trying to solve it without putting black plastic because that was the last Blackbook was a plastic thing. And so on the iPhone at that scale, like out in the rugged, training it, like learning all the tricks and techs. And now finally, here we go. They're actually able to get the Blackbook back. I want one. Inhalation actual. Yes. Yeah, I think that's all we're seeing there. And to get full colors, we're still years away from that. I think really good. So I think I wonder what happened if you scratch one of them. I don't know. Who does that? Jerry Riggs or something like that? He scratches the shit out of everything. Whatever the show's called. I don't know what his actual name is, but I think that's the show. Yeah. Anyway, I like that. But I'd be very interested to see. I want to see more. I want more than ray tracing. Ray tracing was nice, but you want an integration of ray tracing and radiosity. We need fucking voxel based. So I used to, from studying a lot of graphics architectures back from Silicon Graphics and 3DFX and after them and all the other ones, and prior to that, and designing my own 3D software and things like very primitive. I could animate things as I wished. Objects like cubes and things, not fucking 3D characters. I never got that far in my programming skills, but the timing as well. But anyway, yeah, looking at what you want to have is actually, we're already doing this kind of stuff now, but where you set up a volumetric space and it's like basically three-dimensional pixel grid, and each individual pixel can have certain values assigned to it and let light be traced through it, and changing the color of each of them basically, so that you move away from an observer plane as being the king to an architecture where the space is the king and observers are a slice that move through. So you do the heavy lift render once, and then you have these fast render planes that can move through it. I could go on for much longer, but that's not the topic of this one. But yeah, I'd be interested to understand like a much deeper level of the ray tracing approach that's being used by Apple. I wonder who would get a deep dive. It's fucking low level. Wonder if it's revealed through their software implementation, and the software implementation was the hardware. It's probably how they did it. That's how you'd find out. Yeah, because there are different approaches. NVIDIA's smashing that out. if you're interested in that and anyone's actually listened to any of this, then go see 2 Minute Papers for all the awesome sort of graphics algorithms and things that are coming out. Australian price. And it was natty, wasn't it? Let's go and check. So the next thing was they did do they just chucked the chip. I'm not really that interested in the thing, but they did put it in the Mac. The nice little spec. Like it actually makes it into it. This is a beast now, or mini beast, like not a max beast, but just it's got hardware. You can edit 4K with hardware ProRes in this thing. Like it's not to be sneezed at. Like we are in 2023. The thing is going to be freaking amazing. I think the 24-inch screen's a little small. Probably needs to be 32. I got a 32 on my desk. I couldn't imagine using a smaller screen. Maybe, nah, there's no need for it. Why would you do? Let's just check. Because it's the M3 chip, magic key. Because I'm curious. Because people, of course, were DisplayPort, audio connections. See how they don't. Yeah, so there's magic keyboard. They just call it with Touch ID. So I guess we have to go to accessories to see. Are they going to bring those things out with with Lightning? Will they? Magic keyboard with Touch ID. Nothing's changed over here. So there you go. There's literally nothing to say about this. I guess thermals, perp, stratification, just market stratification. That's all it is. Anyone, and even myself, that's probably what I'm interested in. That with a Pro, right? And you can see their market too. Like it's very interesting. Like they're still not trying to sell to the PC market. They're not trying to convert anyone. It's not that they're not trying to convert anyone over. Of course, they're always wanting new users in the ecosystem and loving their things and feeding the engine, but all beta testers. But the current target is Intel Mac users. Like I know we're not very far in. Like a Mac lasting 5-6 years, 5 years is not unreasonable. Then and pros will go to 7 and things. So most of the fleet is probably still Intel. But there would be people, definitely. It boggles my mind. So what am I saying? Like I had it 15 and that lasted me through till 2021, 6 years. So there you go. That. So at the moment you've still got people with 2019, the worst ones, like the overheating. Oh my God. So they're just trying to convert these people over. And they started to mention, and I don't think they still sold the M1 Pro people because I don't think they sold us unless you really want, and I do. But I like the hardware ray tracing will have to be, I shall wait for it to be like, I want it here. I want a hardware ray tracing on my face. I want a M3 extreme per eye. Just, I don't know, talking shit with all of the grunt applied to only that many pixels, not multiple screens. So it's just, instead of being able to do it across 6 monitors, it can do it in one monitor, 6 times as good. But yes, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see next year. Next year, the Pro, the Ultra, and the thing comes out. It'll be interesting. The other thing that wasn't was that. Now, where was it? I didn't actually hear either time I watched it. Somehow I managed to miss it both times.
And
she talks. It's about
and game to another Mac, so pros can securely.
Oh, here we go.
Of all the capabilities of Apple Silicon, with powerful new features for pros, like the new performance mode in screen sharing, which enables extremely responsive remote access to another Mac, so pros can securely work on their highest quality content from anywhere, and game mode, which prioritizes graphics tasks to deliver consistently high frame rates.
They really glossed over this, but it's a high performance screen sharing.
Extremely responsive remote access to another Mac, so pros can securely work on their highest quality content from anywhere, and game mode, which prioritizes graphics tasks to deliver consistently high frame rates and drastically reduces latency with your wireless accessories. So you can enjoy even more immersive gameplay in your favorite titles like Baldur's Gate 3. No matter what your passions are in work and in life.
Those 2 little software things were interesting. They were bad mentioning. That was the only other thing that was really, and that was quite noteworthy. I like that remote thing. Sounds very interesting. You know what? It immediately makes me think, I just want to go out and you just want to go out and buy just a racks of Mac Studios and just rent those fuckers out. Just rent out time on that. Just go get that. You just had a farm. It just allows for that kind of computing, doesn't it? It's just what it's talking about. And that's not really what you only announced. There's also but we can't see that because it's really a software feature. So yeah, can you imagine that? Like you're just working on your mini, whatever, like a good one, and then you just can access you just screen share into this thing and just beast mode it. The graphic of that I did in Diffusion B was a tilt shift style photo of a beast with dynamic memory allocation and hardware ray tracing. That's using Stable Diffusion 1.5 at the moment, the model. Anyway, yeah, I think that was what I thought about the Apple thing, especially Variant M3 Max is a beast. It's going to be great. People are going to be comparing that. How many frames? It just comes down to how many frames a second. And it's not there yet. I think don't scorn away actually, scorn away as much as you want. Consider that what the M3 Max is, that the M3 is also got hardware ray tracing in those things. Now, do we see 40 cores one day in the M3, or do those cores perform so amazingly that where do we go? What's the pathway to getting, and do you need it? Because if you have a game that's designed to run across an architecture, then surely it can just run scaling. And so you can run it on the max and you can run it down the scale. Still got the hardware ray tracing and everything, just at a lower res or less, whatever, less polys, but you don't have to sacrifice hardware ray tracing and other things. You get all the stuff. Just a bit less. I don't know. Like it'd just be interesting from a design perspective. Like for software, you could just. I don't know. I think it's going to enable more games than less. And the Apple's work on that, and geez, what do we say? The Wine community, and Codeweaver with them, and as part of that community, and all the other Vulkan and whatever DVK or the others as well. Like all the effort to bring DirectX 12 effectively to other platforms has been amazing. And to close out for the night, I'd say Apple's work on putting DirectX 12 in the game porting toolkit and showing how that's like the performance is nearly native, like it's amazing. It's really good. And that's Gen 1. We're going to see more of that effort next year. And I think what we'll see is they're the foundation steps that's being made to be able to put Windows on Mac, like properly dual boot, run native Windows apps, as it were, and run Windows. And I'd say that what we're going to see is Apple being confident enough that they're actually going to sell it as a Windows, not as a Windows laptop, but to Windows users as a laptop. This is part of actually Apple's like longer term plan, is that it isn't just to convert the Apple thing to, it's actually to take the Windows market onto ARM and create a Windows competitor effectively, so they can get that market. Yeah, because they used to have that market. They're not going to secede. Like, why would? Oh, what's the evidence of that? They used to have that. Like when they went to Intel, the whole thing was that you could run Windows on the fucking thing. They put a lot of effort into making it so that you could boot, was right there, but and people did. You could run that, but it just had absolute shit bag graphics chips, and it was just awful from a gaming perspective, whatever it was. But it was as good as it could be, even with the AMD chips and things. But yeah, so this is not the abandoning of what we've actually been seeing. Is like we got to get our ducks in a row again. They're just rolling out the layers. So now we get the game porting toolkit in 12, which is the core thing. If you nail DirectX 12, you can run Windows, because that's the complicated bit. Rosetta is basically the other bit, but they'll do a lower level abstraction layer, I'd say, like what game porting toolkit's doing, and let you run like basically Windows natively and Windows applications natively. It'll be the best it'll become the best laptop and for Windows. And I don't think that'll be like limited unless they're going to be complete pricks. It's just, that's a software thing. When that comes out, I say it's next year, that it'll run on any M series, M1, M2, M3. That won't be a problem. It'd be a total arse act to they just wouldn't do it, because it just creates so much value for those M series chips, like the M1, like someone selling that suddenly to a Windows user or whatever is like a good chip. And Windows users are not afraid of spending $5,000 on a good gaming laptop, gaming thing, and it's not there yet. Which way will it take to get there, though? Yeah, does the have 40 core, or how does it have a core that's 4 times more efficient? What's the easier path? I think that Apple's path is architecture and efficiency, and developer transparent architectures as well, like with this dynamic memory allocation thing. Like you don't have to do anything, it's just doing it, which makes it just more accessible. It's just a strategy. It's a good one. Anyway, that's an hour. I wonder if anyone was in the chat. It's the chat window. Oh, the M came along. What do you mean I got to sign in? Can't do that. It's too boring. That was my little diary on tech. Yeah, I think the things that I really like, and I like doing like a little deep dive. So there's my thoughts dumped out into the public sphere from today. Yeah, and I like the level of spook. And at the end, it was just nice going up, and there was the moon. I thought that was interesting. Apple's looming over the Earth as the moon. But good time. Stop streaming and stop recording.